Well, welcome to my workshop on a January afternoon on a very chilly day in the UK. There's still plenty of snow left on the hills, and although it isn't freezing temperature, it's just above freezing temperature, and I'm rubbing my hands together between all these shots to try and keep warm. What we're looking at today is a simple Meths stove demonstration. We've talked about it many a time and spoken to a lot of people on the phone about the differences between these stoves, but I think it was a good opportunity to perhaps look at it in more detail to help you decide which one you particularly want to use whenever the time comes as we go into spring and summer. So without further ado, let's have a look at them. Okay, so these are the 5 stoves. You've got the Vargo Triad stove, titanium stove. You've got the Vargo Decagon stove, like once again titanium. You've got the 2 white box stoves, the Solo and the Duo, and you've got the good old-fashioned heavy-duty Trangia stove there. Now let's try and go through these individual features. Before we do though, we just want to mention something. This has proved to be a very, very useful piece of kit. This is just a simple soldering mat that you can pick up from a DIY shop now for only a few pounds, and it's great for protecting work surfaces, but in particular protecting the ground when you're cooking. So if you're ever using a Meths stove or a wood burning stove, have a thought about using one of these underneath, which is helps protect the environment. So let's start with the Vargo Triad. Now this is a sweet little stove. I really like the Triad stove. It's got a lot of character. Again, titanium. It is a dual fuel stove, so it takes Meths into this side, and it'll take hexamine Esbit tablets on that side. And the principle is remarkably simple and effective. If you're using it as a Meths burner, you would pull out your 3 prongs at the base and push that into the ground, and that would give you a lot of stability for your pot that you would then put on top. And believe me, it is a lot of stability. It's a very stable little unit. You then fill the Meths into the centre there until you have a pool in the centre, and you light the Meths, and after a while it vaporizes correctly and the burner really then kicks in to give you a good flame, and we'll look at that in a while. A good spread across the top there, and providing your pot is sort of 80-85 millimeters across, you'll have plenty of stability there. The weight is about 28 grams, which makes it probably the lightest one we've got in the ones we're looking at the moment, and because everything folds down so neatly, it is a joy to cook and put that away and then drop that into your cooking pot for storage afterwards. One thing that is a useful thing to note with this is that once you've done your cooking, or you've brought the water to the boil, it's fairly easy to blow it out, and once you've blown it out, you can then drizzle the remaining fuel down one of the legs back into the fuel bottle. The downside, if there is a downside, is that you can't fill this unit from a standard Meths bottle. So you'd have to have a smaller bottle or drizzle system to put the fuel in there without spillage, and obviously look after the fuel. The way we do that is use something like this, which is one of the Trangia bottles. They come in a 300ml and a 500ml, and it's got a fantastic valve at the top here, which is just, I'll just show you very quickly. You unscrew the valve. It allows you to drizzle the fuel in there without spilling any, and consequently, obviously, you put that down as what you would do when you're moving around the tent or whatever, then you knock it over, and thankfully the safety valve prevents any spillage. So that's a really useful tool. So we'll come back to the Triad. I think we've covered most points on that. The next one is the Decagon stove. Vargo Decagon, titanium once again. The Triad, by the way, doesn't come with any extras. That's what you get, and it's the same with the Decagon as well. This is the thing that you get. There's nothing else in the package. There's no windshield. It's always worthwhile considering a windshield because of the obvious advantages. Now this is a side burner. Again, very, very stable base, weighing in at 37 grams, so only 7 grams heavier than the other one. You fill the fuel into the reservoir about halfway full, nowhere near as high as this, otherwise it'll spill, of course. You light it, and then you have to wait for the Meths to vaporize and the jets come out of the side before you can put the pot on top, which is another minute or so, which of course is fuel time that's lost in some respects. This one, when you've again finished your cooking, you can blow it out and you can lift it up and tip it out, and it will drizzle out of the holes back into the bottle. A bit more of a fiddle than the Triad, but yes, it will do it, and I think that is pretty well done. You need to have a pot that's a good 10 centimetres across though to make the most of this. It's certainly stable enough, no problem at all, but because the flames come out the side, which you'll see shortly, you'd see it lips up the side of the pot, so you need to have a fairly wide pot to make the most of that. Now looking at the two white box stoves. Now the white box stoves are very, very sweet. They're made by a guy called Bill Ballou over in the US out of recycled aluminium beer bottles he picks up out in out where he is basically, and he recycles these and to produce a very, very effective, and I'd say probably of all the stoves the most powerful Meths stove that we've got and that I've certainly seen. What happens is you again fill it to inside of the neck there, which is below the jet holes there, light it, you have to wait for it to vaporize. When it vaporizes it jets out the side and it really does belt out of heat. If you want liquid heated quickly, then this is certainly the way to go. The difference between the Solo and the Duo, as you can see, is purely height. They are equally same diameter, so that when you put a pot on top you have to make sure the pot is fairly central so that it doesn't tip over, particularly if it's on unstable ground. But you'll see that going, and what we'll try and do is see how long both the jets will last. Now the only difference between these two and the other ones we've got here is that this comes with this wonderful thin foil, or thick foil, depends how you look at it really. It's fantastic stuff. So you have a windshield and a base plate that comes in, and that goes in a wide area around your pot. And this foil is wonderful stuff. In fact, we've now obtained it as well, and you can do magical things with this. It's tough enough that you can bend it, fold it and put it away in your pot afterwards and do it loads of times without actually ruining the foil. But if you need to make something custom made, you can just cut it with a pair of scissors. You can fold it over very, very easily like that. It's just easy to work with, and then if you've got something like an office punch like this and you want to put some air holes in it, then you can just literally put an air hole in it like that. Can you see that? Yeah, there you go, like that. So it's a fantastic material, very, very flexible, but we sell that separately. But that's an aside. It actually comes with the white box stove Solo and the Duo, and is it's obviously extremely useful, and as I say, a windshield needs to be considered for all these Meths stoves to get the most out of them. Finally, we have the rock solid, good old-fashioned Trangia. This has been around for many, many years. This is the domestic version, not the army version. This sits beautifully in the honey stove, as a lot of people will know. The advantage of this one is the fact that you can actually leave the Meths in, and that's it, I haven't mentioned that, have I, about the white box. With the white box stoves, it's very, very difficult to blow them out, and even if there is fuel left in the bottom, you can't get the fuel out unless you have a syringe to suck it out. So it is best to calculate your fuel as best as possible with the white box and let it burn out. Now with the Trangia, you can blow it out, and then as you can see possibly there, it's got some fuel left in from the last time I used it. It will store the fuel for when you want it at a later state, which is great. I think everybody knows about the Trangia. It is a rock solid bomb-proof piece of kit. It weighs in at the immense 120 grams, so it's 4 times the weight of any of these really. But for a reliable piece of kit that'll be around for many years, I'm sure this will do the job. Of course, the Trangia comes with a simmering ring, which is a very simple but effective cap that goes over the top there and only allows a certain amount of the burners to burn. So useful if you want to do some simmering, but in reality most people these days use a Meths stove in conjunction with pot cozy material. Where's the bit pot cozy material? There we go. Which is this stuff. And I'll do another video about this, and we'll actually do a test and an experiment and see how hot that keeps your liquid once it's boiled when you make a pot cozy.